Hey guys, this is Mike from Deepwood Force of Will coming at you guys with another video. I know what you guys are saying. Mike, you literally just did a video on Millium. I know the mono white, yada yada yada. Well, guess what, guys? We got another Millium deck for you today. Again, this is still part of that collaboration with Alex from the Grinning Remnant. This week was his ruler Roulette, where he dedicates an entire week to a single ruler. And you guessed it, that's his favorite boy Millium here. So this is a different build from the last one. The other one was more of like a hyper-aggressive mono-light build. This is more of a control-based light-dark Millium deck. So definitely going to be some different choices here. Obviously some of the shell is going to be sort of the same just because, you know, some Millium's cards are really good no matter what you do with them. But I'm not going to waste any more time on this. We already know what Millium does, so we're just going to get started. So Millium I've profiled in my last video. Again, he helps you mana fix for your fairy tales. On his opposite side, you get a stone, you continue to mana fix, and you can also just start snowballing out of control, so definitely a very, very strong ruler, and of course I've said my praise of him in the last one. First thing you're going to notice is that the stone lineup is way different for this build. Since this is a light-dark build, we run 4 Magic Stone of Heaven's Rift, just no conditions produce either white or black. From there we also have 2 Ancient Magic Stones, same condition of producing white and black, but in order for this to come into play untapped, you have to pay 300 life, or let it tap itself. And last but not least, we have the Shadowy Light Magic Stone, also known by the Miles brothers as the Light Dark Shitbrick, which is great. So again, I only have 1 Ivengolf, so I've only got 2 of these things, because I'm not investing in more of them, but basically all the stones do here is ensure that you constantly have a way to produce both light and dark. And again, since Millium allows you to use that light will to play any fairy tale, you can play any fairy tale, and you can use the black for your removal spells, which you'll see in a second. Main deck has a couple of choices that are similar to the old build. It still runs the 4 of Tinkerbell, the fairy, having, you know, a flying body that gets stronger with more fairy tales you control. It's great, and Tinkerbell is just a very strong card as a 1-drop fairy tale to get out with Peter Pan. Again, Peter Pan, we know what he does. When he comes into play, you search your deck for a fairy tale with total cost 1, put it into your field. So you can choose to get that Tinkerbell there. Another very popular choice for this deck is Red Riding Hood, Rainbow to the Heavens. Same as last video, I still don't have more of these, but I definitely should be investing in more of these soon, so I don't just have these backwards cards. But this main engine is still pretty much the same, where you just kind of get board presence as you're going along, and then you stock up that board presence with not only spells that buff your own stuff, but also spells that remove your opponent's stuff, which you'll see in a bit. Continuing on with the fairy tale lineup, we have the 2 Captain Hooks. Again, same as last video. We're not using the European ban list over here in the US currently. Hopefully that changes soon. So in this build, we're going to use Hook, just because Hook is a very, very strong tempo resonator. Putting your opponent back stones while you're using constant removal spells is very, very strong. So he's obviously a great choice there. Same as last time, 2 Grim the Pitch Black Vampire. I've already said my thoughts on this card as such a very powerful card. When using just the effect to add a resonator back to your hand, having that on a 9/9 body is great with flying. And the last effect, where you can pay 2 black to make your opponent's resonators lose stats based on how many fairy tales you control. Of course, with this deck you can produce the black for that, so this becomes a very, very relevant effect, especially if you start swarming the board with stuff like Tinkerbell, Peter Pan, Red Riding Hood. So all the standard good stuff you get from Millium, Grim helps to make that stuff even better going into the late game. From there we also have 2 Dark Riding Hoods. This deck's more of a control variant than an aggressive variant. So we're not trying to max out on these, we're not trying to get that swiftness, get that extra damage in. We're really just trying to milk our control aspect, and having a Dark Riding Hood just add a little bit of extra stuff in there, a little bit of extra stats, extra small things as you get lower on life is really great, especially because there are certain cards in this deck that actually do let you pay life, so these effects can be controlled when they actually go off. That's it for Fairy Tales. More Resonators that we have here. We have 3 Gil Lapis, Usurper of Maddening Power. Alex hates me, so he likes to put cards that I don't have in this deck. I currently only have 2 of these guys, but Gil Lapis is fantastic. It searches out a multitude of 1-cost black and white spells. I'll be going over those in just a second. It comes with Precision, which is always great for a control deck, just because if you know that you don't like a certain thing and you want to clear it, you can do that with him. And the fact that he lets you play spells without having to pay life for them is also really, really good, especially for cards like Heteroclite Excalibur, which you'll actually be seeing in just a second. And the last Resonator is just the 1 of 0. Just having a quick cast body with a Will of Hope tag on it is really good. And then having the ability to make it so that your opponent can't draw cards outside of their draw phase, making it so that Resonators you control cannot be returned to the hand, which is great. So Zeros is just a fantastic card in all aspects there. Really nice as a 1 of. Moving on to the chants that we have in this deck. Again, huge focus on control in this build. So the first one we see is 4 copies of Heteroclite Excalibur. Again, being able to just pick something on the board and say, I don't like that, put it away, is really, really strong. It's searchable with Gil Lapis. It makes you lose life, which means that 2 things. 1, Gil can negate that life loss and make it just a 1-cost, remove target Resonator from the game. But if you choose to lose the life, you can accelerate into your Dark Riding Hood's extra effects, which is really, really powerful, backed up with that. So having these removal options, having Dark Riding Hood there to gain swiftness in the late game with this is really, really good. So you can get some surprise lethals off with that card. Next on the list is the Scorn of Dark Alice. Again, another searchable black spell off of Gil Lapis. Again, a 1-cost card that lets you look at your opponent's hand, pick a Resonator, and pull it out of their hand. Denying your opponent Resonators and just swarming the board is really, really strong for this deck as a, not like control deck, but just like an overwhelming force. So having the Scorn of Dark Alice to help with that strategy is really, really powerful. The last spell that you can search out with Gil in this deck is Magic Sweets. We saw that in the last deck that we saw here with Magic Sweets being a 3 of. This time it's a 2 of because it's searchable, but still the same principles apply. Giving something +2/+2 in barrier is always going to be great. So having Magic Sweets available at any time, searchable from your deck, makes this card incredibly potent in this control build. From there we have even more removal in the form of Zero's Magic Light, paired up with Heteroclite Excalibur. That gives you 7 cards that remove your opponent's Resonators from the game. Very, very strong card. Being able to just remove a target attacking or blocking Resonator for 2 will is still great, even if you're not paying for 1. If you're playing 0, Millium still gets really good mileage out of this card, and I highly recommend using it in any white control deck. From there we also have 2 Amaterasu's Foresight. Same principle stand, being able to secure your Resonators on the board, prevent your opponent from dealing extra damage to you, especially if you start getting low on life, with stuff like Dark Riding Hood or Heteroclite Excalibur. Amaterasu's Foresight just lets you kind of hold off for a couple of turns, build up your board, make sure your opponent's Resonators don't trade with your board, and then you can reap the benefits and deal massive damage to your opponent. From there we also have 2 Riola's Volition. Same principles apply to this card from the last video. Being able to target your Red Riding Hood, Rainbow of the Heavens, or your 0, and give it 8 +800/+800 barrier and flying, all for 1 will, is great. And even if you're doing it for the full 3 mana, it's still a lot of extra stuff for that mana cost. So Volition is definitely a really high priority card in this deck. So as a control deck, this got pumped up to 2. If you saw the aggro build, this was at 1. But again, that just depends on the build that you're playing, and of course you can play around with any of these ratios. And then the last card, solidifying this as a control deck, is 2 Schrodinger's Observations. Observation is probably one of the most versatile cards this game has seen. Definitely one of the best cards for a control deck that's trying to move into the late game. If your opponent starts paying life unreasonably, if you have no board, top decking into Schrodinger's Observation and just being like, hey, guess what? I'm either killing your Resonator or dealing damage to you, and I'm gaining life back, so I don't have to worry about being at low life anymore from stuff like Heteroclite Excalibur. So Schrodinger's Observation is always going to be one of those cards that's just kind of fantastic in most situations, and is definitely a solid 2 of in this deck, because you definitely want to see this going into your late game. And that's essentially the entire deck. Again, this deck's a little bit self-explanatory just because it's the Fairy Tale engine mixed in with a couple of control options. Again, play around with the ratios all you want, see what fits best for you, know that you can pretty much tech any dark control or light control card at cost 1 into this deck, and Gil can search it out, and just know that you can always add in more swarm-based stuff to really get the full value out of stuff like Grimm, stuff like Peter Pan. So this deck is very fun. I had a really good time checking it out, testing it out a little bit, and again, thank you all for watching this. This has been a really fun week as the Millium Ruler Roulette happens, and in the words of a great Alex Goodman from Grinning Remnant, I've got a million problems, but a hook ain't one. Catch you guys next time. Take care.